Welcome to the Florida Gardener Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer, and before we get into today's episode, we have a 5-star review from Cassie Lane, which I wanted to share. The title of her review is Obsessed, and she continues to write the following. For the last 21 months, I thought I was the only youngish person on the Treasure Coast, in parentheses, Vero, who loves Florida planting. So excited to have found this pod. Awesome info. Well, thanks so much for the kind review, Cassie Lane. I really appreciate you taking the time to share. I just really appreciate the fact that I get to nerd out with you guys on this platform and that you listen. So thank you. Okay, so on with the show. Today we are discussing vines. I love vines, and here's why you should too. They are so versatile. Whether you want to make a statement in a large planter, fill a hanging basket by the front door, maximize impact in a small space with vertical interest, or maybe it's a little privacy you crave, your own secret garden perhaps. No matter your goal or vision, there is a vine for that. First things first, there are 3 different types of vines. This is important to understand because they all behave differently. The first type we are going to discuss are the leaners. You can think of leaners as more shrubby plants with long stems that need your guidance to grow where you want them. There are these green plant ties that are made of stretchy plastic. So you might see those around a leaner at the garden center or any landscape. You can also use twine, but essentially you need something to secure the stems for support. That way you can train it on a trellis, arbor, pergola, or even around a palm tree or mailbox. Another method is using hooks and wire to create a diamond pattern display directly on the exterior surface of a house or building. The leaners are planted up against the wall, and then the stems of the vines are strategically woven into the wire trellis. Bougainvillea is one of the most popular vines to fall into the leaner category. Allamanda is another example of a leaner. Allamanda has loads of cheerful yellow trumpet-shaped flowers. I'll be honest, this is my least favorite group of vines because essentially it's like having a kid that never grows up. If you want it to look good and stay in bounds, you're going to constantly be taking care of this thing, adjusting the tape as it moves, making sure it continues to grow in the direction you want. And that is because this vine does not send out twining tendrils. It really is easiest to think of them as a bush that sends out long stems, but the stems don't naturally latch on and twine to a structure. So they need your help, always and forever. I think Bougainvillea, specifically if you're training it as a vine, is one plant the average backyard gardener should skip. We all love the burst of purple and pink flowers on this one, but have you ever noticed that you typically only see it used well in commercial landscapes, town centers, squares, maybe that downtown coffee shop on the corner? There is good reason for this. First off, you're not going to get that huge display of flowers unless this vine is in full sun. While many full sun plants can skirt by in part sun, maybe even part shade, I find that full sun really is important for this one. Secondly, the stems are thick, really thick as it matures, and woody and covered in thorns, making it extremely difficult to train as it gets larger, unless you have a professional landscape crew. So you're basically forced to baby something that is trying to kill you. If you're going with a leaner, select the Allamanda or something similar that does not have thorns and provides a bit more give. Moving on to the second group of vines, the twiners. Confederate Jasmine, aka Star Jasmine, is one of the more popular twiners, but there are loads in this category. Twiners are my favorite type of vine. Twiners wrap their new growth around whatever they can find. You'll want to help them get attached while they're young, but once they start going, they'll take off on their own. Let's be honest, the twiners are like your favorite child. They make parenting seem easy. To be clear, if you want them to grow vertically, you'll still need a structure that they can latch onto, such as a trellis, but you don't have to use green plant ties to secure the stems to the trellis and then keep adjusting those as the vine grows. Provide a little guidance when you initially plant it and it'll be off to the races. The wire diamond trellis you can create against the exterior of your house can be used with twiners too. The difference is with the leaners, you really have to make sure the stems are woven thoughtfully into the diamond pattern. Otherwise, they can fall out. And as the leaners grow, you'll need to make adjustments to the stems. But if you're using a twiner, it won't need any guidance. Just plant it next to the wall and it will twine around the wire trellis on its own. Here are some more vines that fall into the twiner category. The sky vine. Oh my goodness, I love this one. It's a fast-growing vine, great for areas that you want quick coverage. And it has blue flowers. Blue is such a rare color to find in plants, making this one extra unique and delightful. This lady grows best in sun, but can handle some shade. Mandevilla vine is a very popular choice for twiners. In my experience, they look great until they don't. If you want tons of flower power for the season, go with this lady, but just be prepared to cut it back. In my experience, they go hard, but they nearly always end up failing. They don't die, but they definitely start to look unattractive and need to be cut back in order to encourage a new flush of growth. Because of this, I don't recommend this vine to be used as a permanent solution, such as a privacy screen. However, if you're looking for flower power for those hanging baskets or a colorful trailing plant for that eye-catching potted display, look no further. The Mandevilla vine is probably the best on the list as far as that goes. Moonflower, aka tropical morning glory, is a rarity to find at the nursery, but one I absolutely love. It has massive white flowers that only open during the evening. It's a quick-growing vine similar to the sky vine. It also attracts some incredible evening pollinators, including bats and moths. If it's butterflies you want to bring in, plant a passion vine or Dutchman's pipevine. Both of these twining vines are host plants, so the butterflies will lay eggs on them and the caterpillars will eat the leaves. Let them eat it. It doesn't kill the plant. These vines are great for pollinator gardens. And here's a little tip. If you love the idea of having butterflies and caterpillars, but also want to create some permanent privacy or appreciate a more tidy garden, like not a bunch of plants with leaves missing from the caterpillars munching, all you have to do is add in another vine that is not a host plant. For example, if you mix a passion vine with a few Confederate Jasmine vines, the caterpillars are only going to eat the passion vine. They will not damage the jasmine. So you can enjoy the butterflies and the life cycle with the caterpillars, but still have your green space. Now that's a perfect segue into Confederate Jasmine, which is a slow to moderate growing, but really hardy vine. And it's versatile, growing equally well in both shade and sun. And of course, we have the lovely white flowers that smell oh so heavenly. I really enjoy this vine. It's one of my favorites and it's easy to source. Bleeding Heart is probably one of the more unique flowering twiners. At first glance, you would think it has white heart-shaped flowers with a touch of scarlet on the tips. But actually the white part that you see is not a flower. It's a flower bract, from which the red flower emerges. Just a fun fact for you. If you want something different, I'd look this one up. And now I'm just getting nerdy. The same thing is true for Bougainvillea. What we think is the flower is not the flower. It's the flower bract, B-R-A-C-T. There's a small, tiny, little white flower inside of that colorful purple, pink that is actually the true flower of a Bougainvillea. Okay, done nerding out on that. Bleeding Heart can grow in full sun, but in my experience, it does best with some afternoon shade. The leaves are large and a deep green, making this vine pretty even when it's not in bloom. There is also a red flowering variety with blooms that fade to pink and then purple. It's really pretty. Now, as an FYI, even though the Bleeding Heart vine does send out tendrils, I don't feel like it's the best type of clinger on the list. To me, it can sometimes behave more like a leaner. I just feel like they need a little bit more structure and help maybe than the Confederate Jasmine or the Passion Vine and the Sky Vine. But they don't need as much structure and assistance as the Bougainvillea. So hopefully that makes sense. Also, there are two different types of bleeding hearts. Bleeding heart, which is just like a shrub, and then there's bleeding heart vine, which is what we are talking about. I'm going to list the names of all the plants in the show notes along with the botanical names, so you'll be able to reference that there. But just FYI, we are talking about the bleeding heart vine. Okay, so the third and final group of vines are the clingers. Clingers don't need any assistance, period. No green tie tape and no trellis. If you have a smooth wall, you don't even need to add the hooks and wire for it to grow vertically. How do they do it? 2 words: aerial roots. They have small roots that extend from the vine and attach to the surface on which they grow. Just to back up here, twiners do not have aerial roots. They have tendrils. Tendrils are easy to control. A tendril is a specialized slender coiling structure that allows climbing plants to attach themselves to supports by wrapping around objects, essentially acting as a hook to help the plant climb and reach for sunlight. Aerial roots, on the other hand, act as anchors that can latch onto solid surfaces while also absorbing moisture from the air. They will attach to the wall all by themselves, using little sticky root hairs. These hairs can be nearly impossible to remove from the wall or building, so be sure you really want the vines there before you plant. Tendrils can easily be moved or removed entirely if you don't like where a plant is headed. Aerial roots can pose a challenge depending on how long they have been there and how large they are. English ivy is a popular clinger. It doesn't need any support. Put it up against a wall and it will latch on with no assistance from you. If you've lived in Florida any amount of time, you've probably noticed a large pothos climbing up a tree outside. These plants can take over, which isn't always a bad thing. But if you're not going for the wild jungle look, you'll want to be more hands-on with these plants in the landscape or hire someone to maintain them for you. So clingers are like raising a stubborn teenager. You must be firm with them. If the parents are out on date night, you better have a sitter, else the family car gets wrecked and the kid's nose is pierced. How did this happen so fast? On the contrary, given the right environment, those rebellious kids end up blossoming into incredible humans. In the same way, so can these vines. There is nothing more striking than an ivy-covered Victorian home. I actually really like this group. I may or may not have been that edgy, defiant teenager. Here are some more vines in the clinger category. Creeping fig or climbing fig vine. This is a woody vine with small, delicate green leaves. It likes moisture, and in my experience, it can be a bit fussy if not watered regularly. I recommend planting it in an area that is irrigated. As long as it receives ample water, this plant is a gorgeous vine that will quickly climb any porous surface, making it a good choice for covering up boring walls or structures and transforming any garden space into a lush oasis. It does well in both sun and shade. Monsteras, along with the pothos, which we touched on just a bit ago, are probably 2 of the most versatile Florida clinging vines. Indoors or outside, these guys have you covered, climbing up trees with leaves growing much larger than they ever would indoors. I've seen pothos leaves as large as both my hands combined. And many folks don't realize that their beloved monstera is actually a vine when grown outside in the right conditions, i.e. humid tropical environments. This plant lives naturally in areas such as Belize, Honduras, Costa Rica, Cuba, and southern parts of Mexico. Here in the wild, monstera seedlings will crawl until they meet a tree to attach to. Their adjacent roots allow the monstera to anchor against the tree and reach the canopy light. Isn't that just incredibly neat? Okay, that wraps up clingers. So to recap, there are 3 main groups of vines: leaners, twiners, and clingers. The best type for beginners and low-maintenance gardeners is probably number 2, twiners, because you don't have to be super hands-on once they get going, but they also aren't going to take over and potentially damage your home. Now, before I let you go, I have a bit more to share about vines and how they are used. Vines don't always grow vertically. They can also make fantastic ground covers. Many vines are also great for trailing out of a hanging basket or container. I've noticed purple heart vine used in some of the road medians in Palm Beach County. Purple heart is commonly overlooked, but I encourage you to be open-minded. This is a very low-maintenance, reliable plant that does well as a ground cover and as a trailing plant in a container display. One of my favorite vines for a hanging basket or pot is ornamental sweet potato vine. With foliage available in both chartreuse and a deep eggplant color, this vine is so stunning. Combine both colors together for maximum impact. It's also one of the easiest plants to propagate from cuttings. I kid you not. Throw a piece in some water and it starts to root within 72 hours. It's a quick grower, great for immediate impact. FYI, while related, this is not the same plant as the edible sweet potato. Asiatic jasmine is an evergreen, vine-like woody plant that is commonly used as a ground cover in Florida landscapes due to its hardiness and drought tolerance. It's also a great turf grass alternative in shady areas. Now, don't confuse this guy with Confederate jasmine, the twining vine we covered earlier. Asiatic jasmine is primarily a ground cover, spreading and clinging to the ground. Confederate jasmine has a larger leaf and is more of a climbing vine. It wants to go up. It should also be noted that while Asiatic jasmine does have small pinwheel-shaped yellow flowers, it rarely blooms in Florida, and therefore it's not known for its flowers. Unlike Confederate jasmine, which has the beautiful fragrant white blooms, which we all look forward to during the spring and summer months. All right, that wraps up episode 20 of The Florida Gardener. We'll see you soon for episode 21. And in the meantime, if you'd like to subscribe to my free newsletter, download one of my Etsy garden templates, book a consult, or check out my social, you can access everything through my website, rootsredefined.com. That's roots, ROOTS, redefined, REDEFINED.com. All right, thanks guys. We'll see you again soon.